The morning sun rose slow over the Arizona hills, painting the sky in pale gold and soft pink. Daniel Hart rode along the dusty road with a quiet seat and steady hands on the reins. He was a widowed rancher with calm eyes and a clean hat, a man who spoke little and did his work on time. His sorrel mare, Ginger, moved at an easy walk. A burlap sack of oats hung over the saddle horn, and a short list of supplies sat folded in Daniel's shirt pocket: nails, lamp oil, salt, and a new cinch strap. He did not plan to stay long in town. He liked the open land better than crowded streets. Still, once a month he came for the things a ranch could not make by itself. As he drew closer, he heard a noise that did not sound like ordinary business. It was a rough sound, like a crowd stirred by a wrong idea. He turned the corner by the livery and saw it. A circle of men stood tight around a weathered water trough. Some were laughing in a small, mean way. A trader with a torn vest and a shiny watch chain was talking too loud, as if the street belonged to him. Beside the trader stood a young woman, pale from dust and worry. Her dress was clean but thin, her hands folded tight at her stomach. She looked around like a deer ready to bolt and then freeze. The trader tapped the trough with a coin and called, $1. "A whole dollar, gentlemen, a finer bargain you'll never see." The words rolled out like a show. Someone snorted, someone else spat. Daniel sat very still in the saddle and felt a small ache begin behind his ribs. He did not see a bargain. He saw a person. He saw a face too young for that kind of shame and eyes that had spent all night awake. He noticed the way she tried to stand straight, as if good posture could protect her. The trader kept talking, shaping the air with his hands, throwing out a cruel word like virgin to bring more eyes and more ugly attention. It was a rumor, a trick to gather a crowd and make the young woman feel small. Daniel's jaw tightened. In that moment, a sentence rose in him, uninvited and fierce. "She looks like my little girl." The thought almost took his breath. Years had passed since he lost his child, yet grief lived quiet in him like an ember under ash. It glowed when the wind of memory came. "Get along," someone called from the back. "If it's only $1, I'll take the joke." Laughter. The young woman flinched. Daniel swung a leg over, dropped from the saddle, and tied Ginger to the post. He walked forward slowly, hands open, head level. He watched the young woman's eyes. She was not empty. She was alert, frightened, but still holding herself with a kind of clean pride. He stepped into the ring of men and said evenly, "This is no sale." He looked at the trader. "What you're doing is wrong." The trader gave a lazy smile. "Friend, I'm only settling a debt. She promised work and quit early. I'm making an example." He rattled the coin against the trough again, making a sharp ring. The young woman's breath came short. Daniel kept his voice calm. "What is her name?" The trader shrugged like he could not be bothered. "Whatever she says, I'm not her pastor." Daniel looked to her and waited, giving her time to choose speech or silence. After a long second, she said, "Elena." Her voice was steady but low, like a creek under ice. Sheriff Boone pushed through the edge of the circle, his badge catching sunlight. He was a large man with a careful way about him. He did not like trouble. He liked paperwork stamped and filed, not shouting. He looked from the trader to Daniel to the young woman. "What's this?" he asked. The trader lifted his chin. $1, a lesson." The sheriff frowned. He was not quick to anger, but he knew a wrong thing when it walked in front of him. He started to speak, then hesitated as the crowd shifted its weight and the mood grew hot. Daniel understood the sheriff's problem. Too many loud men, too much fast talk, and a thin line between order and mess. Daniel reached into his pocket and brought out a silver dollar. He set it upright on the barrel beside the trough where everyone could see it. The coin stood there, bright and simple. "Here is your $1, he said to the trader without looking at him. "It buys nothing. The woman is not for sale. It ends this scene." He turned to Sheriff Boone. "I'll take Elena to my ranch for safety. You can take our statements tomorrow. The town does not need a show today." The trader opened his mouth, eager to argue. Daniel finally faced him, and his voice dropped until it held the weight of a fence post set deep in good ground. "You've done enough." He did not shout. He did not threaten. He just spoke like a man who would not move. The crowd felt the change. Laughter died. Sheriff Boone stepped into the space Daniel had made. "That will do," the sheriff said. He touched the brim of his hat to Elena. "Miss, you may ride with Mr. Hart. I'll expect you both in my office tomorrow at 9. He turned to the trader. "You'll come too." The trader dragged a smile across his face, but his eyes were small and hard. "Fine," he said. "Fine." He scooped the silver dollar into his vest pocket and backed away with a little bow, like the end of a bad performance. Men wandered off in 2s and 3s, shame creeping across their faces now that the noise was gone. The street settled. A gust lifted dust and let it fall. Daniel took off his coat and wrapped it around Elena's shoulders. "It's a cool morning," he said, as if the weather were the only thing to explain. "Can you ride?" She nodded. "Yes." He brought Ginger forward and made a step with his hands. Elena placed her foot carefully and mounted. Daniel led the mare by the bridle at first while Elena found her seat. After a block, he swung up behind and kept the reins loose. They left town at a gentle pace. The trail opened into rolling grass and low hills with dark green creosote bushes. A cottonwood marked the bend of a dry wash. Birds sketched quiet lines across the sky. Elena held the coat tight and watched the land. It was wide, but not empty. It had a kind of clean order. Daniel did not press her with questions. He pointed out a hawk riding a column of warm air. He said the name of a purple flower growing in the ditch. Verbena. He said the names of distant peaks like you might say the names of old friends. His voice did not scrape. It filled the day with steady sound. Halfway home, a jackrabbit broke left across the road and Ginger pricked her ears. Elena stiffened, then let out a breath. "I didn't run," she said, surprised at herself. "You didn't need to," Daniel said. "Ginger won't spook unless I ask her to." A small smile touched Elena's mouth and then faded, but Daniel saw it and tucked it away like a seed. They reached the ranch by early afternoon. A line of cottonwoods shaded the house and the well. The barn stood fresh painted, red against the pale hills. A fence ran straight and strong around the south pasture. Near the corral, a small wooden cross rose from the slope. Elena's eyes rested there, and Daniel followed her gaze. "My daughter," he said softly. He did not add dates or details. The wind moved the grass in a slow wave, and they let the moment pass without more words. Inside, the house was simple and clean. Daniel showed Elena the kitchen, the wash basin, and the small. Morning came soft and pale over the ranch, and the air smelled like clean wood and coffee. Daniel rose early and set water to boil, then put 2 cups on the table. He did not knock on the guest room door. He only spoke from the hall in a calm voice. "Breakfast is ready when you are." After a quiet minute, the door opened. Elena stepped out with careful steps, hair tied back with a thin ribbon Ms. Whitlow had given her the day before. Her eyes still carried shadows from old fear, but she stood straighter now. Daniel poured coffee and slid a plate with warm bread and honey toward her. They ate without hurry. When a draft moved the kitchen curtain and made it slap the window frame, Elena flinched, then breathed. Daniel set the curtain rod more firm. "Old houses talk in the morning," he said with a small smile. "We can teach them better manners." They had promised the sheriff they would return to town for statements at 9. Daniel saddled Ginger and his pack mule, Blue, who liked to follow close and bump elbows like a friendly dog. Before they left, Daniel laid a folded paper on the table. "This is a simple agreement," he said. "If you choose to stay here while the law does its work, I can pay fair wages for help with chores. If you prefer to rest without work, you may. If you would rather go to the boarding house with the school teacher, that is also fine." He said each choice in the same even tone, so none felt heavier than the others. Elena read the paper slow. It said her name, her work if she wished, and her pay by the week. It said there would be no debt. It said she could leave whenever she wanted. Her fingers traced the straight lines of ink. May I sign this after we talk to the sheriff? She asked. Of course, Daniel said. There is no rush. Paper should never move faster than the heart. The ride to town felt different from yesterday. The sky was the same bright blue and the hills kept their long shapes, but the tight knot in Elena's chest had loosened. She saw small things she had missed before. A line of ants carrying crumbs, a family of quail darting from bush to bush, a cloud with edges like cotton. She asked the name of a distant ridge and Daniel told her. She asked why the fence posts ran so straight, and he said he set string tight from one to the next and checked the line with his eye. Straight things help a person think, he said. When a line wavers, worry soon follows. The sheriff's office sat on Main Street, a narrow building with a wide porch. Sheriff Boone stood outside with a ledger under his arm. He nodded at them and opened the door with a gentle hand as if the hinges might spook. Inside, the room smelled like ink and dust. Ms. Whitlow sat at a side desk with a pot of tea and 2 stacked skirts of extra paper. She was not a large woman, but she had a steady way of taking up space that made others breathe easier. Good morning, she said, standing to greet Elena. I brought something for later. She lifted a cloth from a small basket, fresh bread, a pair of clean gloves, and a bar of hard soap wrapped in paper. You may use these or not, she added. No expectations. Elena's throat tightened at the simple kindness. They began with Elena's statement. The sheriff did not hurry her. He asked clear questions, then waited through long silences without shifting in his chair. Elena spoke of the promise of work, the long walk, the empty room where she was told to wait, the sudden crowd, the loud words meant to shame her. She described the moment when Daniel stepped forward and ended the noise. She said the coin had not been about money. It had been about stopping a bad scene. Ms. Whitlow wrote Elena's words with neat strokes. When the story came to an end, the sheriff looked up and met Elena's eyes. Thank you, he said. You spoke with courage. He signed his name under hers and set the paper aside to dry. Then Daniel gave his statement. He kept it simple. He said what he saw, what he did, and why. He did not add flourishes. When he finished, the sheriff nodded once and leaned back. We will hold a hearing this afternoon, he said. The traitor has been told to appear. The judge is riding the circuit and will sit for us at 3 o'clock. He glanced at Elena. You may choose to attend or not. The law will act either way. Elena folded her hands and thought for a long breath. I will come, she said at last. If I can stand there without shaking, maybe someone else will not have to. The sheriff's face softened. That is your choice, and I honor it. They left the office for an hour to breathe outside air. Ms. Whitlow walked with Elena to the dressmaker's yard, where a line of shirts fluttered like white flags. They sat on a bench in the shade and sipped tea. The schoolteacher did not ask for details. She spoke of neutral things, the library schedule, a trail of wildflowers south of the river, how to quiet a door that bangs in the wind. Oil on the hinge and a strip of leather at the jamb, she said. Small acts save the nerves. Elena laughed once, surprised by the sound. For a moment she felt like a normal person with normal errands. The simple talk made noon arrive faster. At 3, the judge arrived on a dusted gray mare. He was a thin man with a calm face. The hearing room filled with quiet people. A shopkeeper who had turned away from the crowd, a stable boy with keen eyes, 2 women from the boarding house, and the traitor with his shiny watch chain. The traitor had cleaned his vest and combed his hair, but he could not comb his eyes. They kept their small, hard set. The judge opened the book and spoke a short sentence about dignity and law. Then he listened. Witnesses told what they had seen. The shopkeeper admitted he had laughed at first and then felt wrong. The stable boy said he heard a cruel word used like a hook to drag a crowd. Sheriff Boone read Elena's statement so she did not have to speak each sentence again. But she stood while he read it, chin lifted, hands steady at her sides. Daniel stood behind her, not touching her chair, only close enough to be present. The traitor tried to turn the story, saying he only meant to teach a lesson about showing up for work. The judge raised one finger. Any lesson that uses shame is not a true lesson, he said. It is only a show. He turned pages back and forth, then made his ruling. The traitor would spend time in the jail and pay a fine. He would be barred for a good stretch from hiring or transporting workers. And he would write a public notice that people are not things. No guns came out. No loud voices rose. The law, quiet and steady, did what it was made to do. When it was over, Elena stepped into the street and let the sun warm her face. She felt tired, but it was a clean kind of tired, like after a long day's work. Miss Whitlow squeezed her hand. "Tea when you want it," she said. "Or a book to borrow." Daniel tipped his hat in thanks to both of them and led Ginger to the hitching rail. They rode home at an easy pace, letting the afternoon light pour over the land. At the ranch, Daniel set a pot of beans on the stove and sliced onions with slow, even strokes. Elena asked if she could help. He nodded. She rinsed the beans, stirred the pot, and set the table. After supper, they walked out to the hill where the small cross stood. The wind had laid the grass in long lines like a comb. Daniel carried a plain wooden marker he had carved that day. No name on it yet, only smooth edges and a clean face. "If you want," he said, "we can set this here, not for a person, but for lost time. It helps to mark a place where you leave something behind." Elena traced the smooth wood. "Yes," she said. They pressed it into the soil together, side by side, hands steady on the mallet handle. When it stood firm, they stepped back. The sky blazed orange, then softened to rose. Days found their shape. Elena chose to sign the wage paper and work the season. She learned how to mend a halter, how to feel a horse's breath and not fear it, how to push a heavy door without slamming it. Daniel showed her a trick with leather. A little oil warmed in the sun could make old straps supple again. He showed her a trick with sleep. A lantern left low in the hall could make the night feel shorter. He showed her a trick with worry. Write it on paper, fold it twice, and put it under a rock by the porch. "The ground can hold what we do not need to carry," he said. Each small tool became a rung of a ladder she could climb when the past tried to pull her down. On a windy afternoon, a clap from the barn door made Elena stop cold. Her breath hitched. Daniel lifted the latch, then set a leather strap so the door would close soft. "There," he said. "We trained the door." She laughed, and the sound rang clear in the dusty air. The next day, she planted a row of seeds beside the steps, marigolds, Miss Whitlow's gift. "They are tough," the teacher had said. "They do not give up in heat." Elena liked that. She watered them each morning and watched for green. The town learned too. The sheriff posted the judge's notice on the office wall where everyone would see. Men who had once laughed now tipped their hats at Elena in the general store. A few said ma'am with awkward honesty. The stable boy brought her a small box he had made from scrap pine. "For your ribbon," he said, shy. She thanked him and put it on the dresser beside the lantern.